War has always pushed the limits of invention, but behind every battlefield innovation came another truth. Many of the tools soldiers once carried became too dangerous, too secret, or too controversial to survive into civilian hands. During World War II, armies across the world issued strict regulations about what could and couldn't be brought into combat. Some of those banned items were outlawed for ethical reasons, others for safety, and some because their legacy was simply too dark. What's surprising is that many of those same restrictions remain in effect today. So, whether you're a history buff or a survivalist interested in old-world gear, understanding these bans reveals how war shaped the laws that still define what's too dangerous for even civilians to own. Some items from World War II were so deadly or deceptive that no army or government would ever allow them again. When World War II soldiers packed their kits, every item was weighed against survival value, but some weapons and gadgets went far beyond the limits of fair combat. Take the British SOE's glove pistol, for instance. It looked like an ordinary leather glove, but fired a single .38 round from the back of the hand when punched into a target. Compact and silent, it was designed for covert assassinations behind enemy lines. But this kind of disguised weapon was later banned under the Hague Convention, which prohibits tools of war designed to deceive or disguise intent. Even today, any weapon disguised as another object, pen guns, cane swords, lipstick pistols, is illegal in most countries. For modern survivalists or collectors, that ban still matters. The desire to hide blades or firearms inside everyday objects might seem clever, but it crosses the same legal and ethical lines that made such designs forbidden. If you want to learn from the principle rather than the object, study the glove pistol's concept, compact efficiency, and apply it to legal tools. Media Group, WWII Glove Pistol Close-Up, Compact WWII Weapon, Modern Multi-Tool on White Background, Small Tactical Flashlight T, Stock multi-tools, small flashlights, or folding knives that prioritize portability without deception. Chemical and incendiary gadgets showed the dark side of innovation that's still tightly controlled today. World War II soldiers experimented with all kinds of flammable mixtures, many improvised in the field. The British sticky bomb, for example, was a glass sphere filled with nitroglycerin coated in adhesive. It was meant to stick to tanks, but often clung to the soldier's uniform instead. After countless injuries, it was banned, and modern equivalents using volatile compounds remain outlawed under international law. Napalm, too, born in 1942, became one of the most devastating weapons of the century and was later prohibited for use against civilians under the United Nations Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. So, the modern takeaway is this. Anything designed to ignite uncontrollably, whether we're talking about wartime napalm or even homemade thermite mixtures, is kept under strict control for a very good reason. Now, for preppers or survivalists, the lesson isn't really to try and replicate the chemistry, it's to understand controlled combustion safely. Instead, learn how to build and maintain legal, efficient fire sources like alcohol stoves or solid fuel blocks. You see, the wartime ingenuity that led to the creation of napalm can actually inspire us to master heat management and safety, which are both absolutely crucial in off-grid survival situations. covert communication devices, well, they really blurred the line between soldier and spy, and the secrecy ban still stands to this day. The OSS and SOE, for example, equipped their agents with all sorts of clever gadgets: disguised radios, hidden cameras, and cipher machines. The famous matchbox radio and cigarette pack transmitter allowed operatives to send coded messages without being detected. These devices were nothing short of revolutionary, but they also laid the groundwork for modern surveillance restrictions. And today, concealed recording or transmitting devices are prohibited in most countries, even for civilians, due to privacy and espionage laws. If you're, fascinated by that kind of fieldcraft, there's actually a legal path forward. Learn open-source communication instead. Amateur radio, Morse code, and encrypted digital systems can channel that same spirit of wartime ingenuity, just without crossing into restricted technology. In fact, many modern preppers study these skills to keep communications going during blackouts or emergencies, making use of the very principles those World War II agents pioneered. Some knives and melee weapons were outlawed because of the way they inflicted wounds. The Fairbairn Sykes fighting knife, iconic among British commandos, survived the war and, remains legal in many countries. But others did not. Tri-blade, trench knives, push daggers and certain bayonets were banned because they caused untreatable injuries, violating the Geneva Convention. Even the Germans restricted the use of sawback bayonets because of public outrage over their brutality. Collectors often seek these relics, but their ownership is still restricted in several countries. For modern outdoor use, the smart approach is to study the ergonomics that made those weapons effective: balance, grip, and reliability. Then apply those lessons to modern bushcraft, or survival knives designed for utility, not violence. A good field knife still carries that wartime DNA, just redirected toward cutting wood or prepping food rather than combat. Explosives and landmine prototypes remain, the most restricted of all World War II technologies. Millions of mines and booby traps were deployed during the war, and, many are still active today. Their human cost was just so catastrophic that most forms of anti-personnel mines are now banned under the 1997 Ottawa Treaty. Even handling unexploded World War II ordnance is illegal without proper certification. These laws, they extend to civilians too, strictly prohibiting the possession or creation of any device meant to detonate under pressure. The lesson here is really about restraint and precision. Wartime engineers learned, quite painfully, that uncontrolled force always backfires, literally. Modern preppers who study explosives for defense or demolition must honestly respect those same limits. Instead, it's far wiser to channel that curiosity into controlled energy systems, pressure traps for wildlife management, mechanical alarms for perimeter security, or even hydraulic systems that safely replicate wartime engineering. During the Second World War, soldiers often carried amphetamines like benzodrine to, stay alert through those endless marches or high-stakes dogfights. The German Luftwaffe, for instance, distributed methamphetamine tablets known as Pervitin. These stimulants did work, but honestly, at a brutal cost, addiction and psychological breakdown were all too common. After the war, most militaries banned their use, and, these substances remain illegal to this day. Modern survivalists might perhaps recognize the same temptation. Energy drinks, caffeine pills, or so-called wakefulness aids tucked into bug-out kits. But the smarter path is really to learn from those soldiers who paid the ultimate price. Prioritize rest, hydration, and proper nutrition over chemical shortcuts every time. The body is your first survival tool, and it was the misuse of it during the Second World War that proved why natural endurance always outlasts synthetic boosts. The banned relics of the Second World War remind us quite starkly that innovation without ethics can destroy just as easily as it saves. Each restriction still standing today was, in fact, written in blood and consequence. The hidden guns, unstable explosives, and chemical stimulants that once promised victory ended up teaching some very hard lessons about control, discipline, and, well, humanity's limits. For the modern historian or survivalist, the real challenge isn't to romanticize these objects, but to understand them, what they reveal about invention, desperation, and restraint. If this dive into forbidden Second World War gear opened your eyes to how history still shapes the survival laws we live by, don't forget to subscribe to Echoes of Valor and share this guide with others who respect the hidden edges of wartime history. The past isn't gone. It's still teaching those who choose to listen.